I haven't done a video for a while, so I figured I would kind of tell my story somewhat, as much as I can. I've been sick for going on 2 days now. As you can see, I'm symptomatic right now. I look like hell, I'm sorry, but I'm not much of a image conscious person. If I look cute with makeup, so be it. If I don't, so be it. I'm a take me or leave me kind of girl. Anyway, so I figured I'd tell you my story. I had been sick for approximately a year and had been given various different diagnoses. The most common diagnosis I had been given was ear infections. From January 2015 till about August, I had been on 4 to 6 different antibiotic Z-Packs and 4 to 5 different prednisone step-down doses, none of which seemed to help the ear infection. So in August, I went to see an ENT, and we decided that she was going to put a tube in my right ear. A couple of weeks prior to me visiting the ENT, I was at work. I'm a hairstylist. You would never know it from the way I look right now. But I'm a hairstylist, a very busy hairstylist. I was doing color in our color room, and I felt a sharp stabbing pain in my right kidney area. I felt it was a kidney stone. So I left work, went to the local ER. They did all the necessary scans, and they said, yes, it's a kidney stone. And they sent me home with a strainer. In the meantime, I had been going back and forth to my primary care physician saying something isn't right. Every couple of weeks, I'm getting sick. And it's a 3-day sick cycle. I'm down for 3 days. It starts with weird, grainy diarrhea. Then it goes to a headache I can't describe. Brain fog that is alarming to me, considering I am a very OCD, on top of everything kind of person. Fevers, nausea, vomiting, sweating, and then just extreme exhaustion. It's an extreme exhaustion I can't even explain. So, of course, she was just, my primary care was just as confused as the next, you know. She just was at a loss. So, after that incident where I went to the local ER, a few weeks later, I was at work. I was performing a color service in our color room. Very similar symptoms happened. Sharp stabbing pain to my right kidney area, and the pain radiated under my right breast, which I later learned was my liver area. I had no idea. I'm a hairstylist, not a anatomy doctor. And then I started vomiting, hiving. I spiked a fever. My blood pressure went out of control. So they took me to, one of my coworkers took me to a different hospital in a neighboring town. They admitted me for 3 days, and during those 3 days, I was given multiple different diagnoses. I had multiple different doctors, hospitalists, so on and so forth. One doctor told me I had a rare blood disease called myoplasmia or something. One told me that I had a gallstone left in the duct from when I had my gallbladder removed 10 years ago. One told me that he felt that I was developing an allergy to the ink in my tattoos, all of which none of them could agree on an exact diagnosis. So they did do a series of tests. They did several blood tests. My lymphocyte count, my basophil count, my eosinophil counts were through the roof. They did sonograms. My liver enzymes were high. My kidney function was poor. My liver was inflamed. They did a endoscopy with biopsies. However, at the time, they did not know to look for mast cells, so they did not biopsy for mast cells. In any case, they released me with no diagnosis, but with a binder to return if I ran a fever, to return if I threw up, to return, and in this binder had the next series of tests they wanted to run on me. I was just anxious to get home and be with my family because they had kept me in there for about 3 days and maybe even 4, I don't even remember, and I was just totally out of it. So I followed up. I got out on a Saturday morning. They had scheduled appointments for me to follow up with my primary care on that Monday. So I go see her, and my primary care is a nurse practitioner, and I love her immensely. I think she's a wonderful nurse practitioner, but I definitely feel like my situation was more than she could handle. So during my appointment with my nurse practitioner, she looked at my demographics and lab work and the things they did when I was in the second hospital for the 3 days or so. And she said, your next step is to go to a hematologist. So I said, okay, whatever I need to do. So in October, in the meantime, I had my ear surgery. It was approximately a week after I'd gotten out of the hospital. When I came out of my ear surgery, the ENT said to me, I do not believe your eustachian tube or your ear damage was caused from repeat ear infections. I believe that it was caused because of your lymph nodes are swollen. She said, I'm going to send all this information back to your primary care, and we're going to go from there. But she told me she did the mild repair that was required, which it's now February 1st, and I've noticed no difference. So I don't really necessarily know that that surgery was necessary, but whatever, I'm doing what I'm told. So I have the kind of insurance that everything has to be ran through your primary care. So if these next couple of minutes start to sound a little tricky, that's why. So I get a phone call from the hematologist in October, the office that I had been referred to by my primary care. I go visit with him. I take a friend with me because at this point my brain fog sometimes gets to be a little much. And I wanted to make sure that I heard things clear and concise. This was before I actually started recording my doctor's appointments for my own review. He said that he looked through all of my medical records. He said that he felt that I needed to have a bone marrow biopsy done. He was going to schedule it for later in the week, the following week, and he was going to draw blood from me that day. And we had a plan. So then after several days had gone by, his nurse called me and said, the hematologist doesn't need to see you again. Your blood work came back fine, and he's referring everything back to your primary care. So at this point, I'm incredibly frustrated. I mean, incredibly frustrated, because I'm feeling ill pretty much on a regular basis, but I'm hitting these walls of exhaustion every couple of weeks where I literally sleep for 48 or 72 hours straight. I'm vomiting. I'm having night sweats. I'm running random fevers. I'm flushing. I just know something's wrong. So I go back to my primary care. She said the next step she was going to do was send me to a rheumatologist. She felt that I was developing lupus. So she told me to pretty much go home, wait for the phone call from the rheumatologist office. So at the beginning of December 2015, I got a phone call from an infectious disease specialist. He was like, I want to see you on the 16th of December. I said, okay. So I go to the appointment. I started having active symptoms in his office. I started hiving. I started becoming disoriented. My blood pressure went out of control. It shot real high, dropped real low. I was sweating. The more it escalated, the more it went into the brain fog, and I kept explaining to him, and he kept me in there for several hours, and actually called in a colleague of his who's an internal medicine specialist. And they both confirmed at that point, because neither one of them had seen it face to face, that I had a version of mastocytosis. Well, at this point, I was just confused because I didn't know what that was. I was a little bit relieved that I had something. I know that sounds sad, but when you are battling something for a year and no one seems to know what's going on, it's scary. It's very scary. So he ran a series of tests, which I will include in this video. And he drew blood and so on and so forth. So I leave his office. On the 23rd of December, he called me and told me that I needed to get to an oncologist ASAP. Now here's where things got a little tricky. He said he was going to contact my primary care and let my primary care know that I needed to get to an oncologist ASAP. I asked him what was going on. He said it was out of his classification of medicine. He could not classify it. He said he wanted me to go to the local university, and it's not local, I shouldn't say. He wanted me to go to the university for my state, which was WVU. And at that point, I said, you know, I don't want to go to WVU. It's several hours for me, and there's a lot closer university hospitals. So he said, I'm going to contact a colleague of mine and see, because he has a practice of 7 hemocs, which I had to ask what that was, and he said that was hematologist oncologist in a neighboring state, Virginia, that he felt could handle my situation. So I got the referral wrote to the oncologist in the neighboring state that he felt was qualified to handle my situation. On, I believe it was the 28th, 26th of December, it was right around Christmas, I got a phone call from the head doctor of that practice, And he said to me, although it is flattering that the doctor that referred you to me feels I'm capable of handling your case, we do not treat, quote, aggressive systemic mastocytosis with cancer components, unquote. So I asked if that was my official diagnosis. He seemed a bit perplexed and asked if I had not received an official diagnosis. I said, no, I've been told that I have mastocytosis, but I have since researched that there's many classifications of mastocytosis, and I was asking if he felt that's what I had. Considering he said he reviewed my demographics, my slides, all my blood tests, so on and so forth. He told me that my best suggestion would be to get to a university. He suggested NIH, UVA, University of Maryland, Johns Hopkins, the Mayo Clinic, but he would refer all of this information, or he would send all this information back to my primary care. So at this point, I am really just blown away because I've now been refused to be treated by a hematologist oncologist practice of 7 different individuals, 7 different brains that have studied this field. So within a couple hours, I got a phone call from my primary care who, if I could demonstrate what I envisioned her doing on the other side of the phone, it felt like she was jumping up and down, frantic. She was like, Chrissy, just get online and research mastocytosis, see where the leading clinical trials are being done at these universities, and just pick where you want to go, and I'll just write the referral to wherever you want to go. And I thought to myself, as a patient who's sick, I don't know why you're not helping me by doing this for me, but okay. So I hung up with her. I got on Facebook. I wrote a little blip, how do you get into Johns Hopkins, #Fort Knox. And a very good friend of mine and client reached out to me and said that she is personal friends with her oncologist that she sees in another neighboring state. And she believed that she would be at least willing to see me. So, of course, I jumped on the opportunity to go somewhere to get some answers. So I saw that oncologist, hematologist within 3 or 4 days. She made it very clear to me she had only treated one other person with mastocytosis in the history of her being an oncologist, hematologist. And his version was cutaneous, which I definitely know I don't have cutaneous. I don't have skin lesions. I don't have any skin blips, blemishes, red marks, dots, rashes, other than when I hive. But they're not consistently there. So I go to the appointment, and one of my main questions I wanted to ask her was, why the need to see an oncologist? Like, apparently there was a trigger. So she had my test results, and the doctor that I had gone to that was the infectious disease specialist had ran a leukemia lymphoma evaluation. And she said at this point I had 0.4% mast cells proliferating my blood. So me being a hairstylist, I said, well, how many mast cells are you supposed to have in your blood? And she said none. So at this point I realized we've stepped into a different realm of, I don't know. We stepped into a different area than just maybe mastocytosis and dealing with that. So she said she wanted to do a bone marrow biopsy ASAP, which I was in for the bone marrow biopsy approximately 2 days later, 3 days later. Which I have to say, for the record, was not the worst pain I experienced in life. I had prepared myself for the absolute worst pain ever. And they let me listen to my music. I kind of just relaxed. I was able to lay on my stomach. They were taking it from my left hip. And I felt like I survived. It wasn't the worst pain ever. When my test results came back, she said the mast cells had not proliferated in my bone marrow at this time, but that the mast cells in my blood, the percentage had increased. So I asked her what was the next step, and she said she was sending me to a dermatologist to have some areas that were underneath my right breast, like some skin discoloration. I used to be an avid tanner. I used to tan every day. She wanted those areas biopsied. So I did. And of course I had a reaction to everything they touched me with. I'll include those pictures with this video as well. So basically, she came back with, let me just state for the record, I haven't got my skin biopsy results back yet. They told me it would be approximately 7 days. I called on the 7th day. They said that their in-house lab could not handle my skin biopsies, and they've been sent off. And it's now been close to 14 days, I believe. And I still haven't gotten my results back yet. However, I've been transferred to the University of Maryland Greenbaum Cancer Center. I'm going to be seeing Dr. Jenny Law's team of people, and I'm hoping to get some answers, direction, a solution, a way to fall back into some kind of normal life routine. So I figured I'd do this video while I'm coming off of 3 days of sickness. As you can see, I got the butterfly flushing. My face is extremely swollen. I'll put pictures in of what I normally look like just to entertain you peeps, because I know this is probably a very boring video. And I'll keep you posted.
I don't care if you don't like my hair, because I know it's amazing. And I don't give a damn if you don't like my tan, because I know it's amazing.